This is in response to the Rachel Maddow show. Beleaguered Chris Christie sees his 2016 hopes fading. I believe that was from Friday, March 13th, 2015. I normally don't always want to take exception because I just want to sort of explain what I had seen, but on this case I'm going to have a couple exceptions. Number one, Rachel indicates there's three reasons why he's toast. I'd say one of the three is really pertinent. The first one is she said that Jeb Bush took all his money, took all the money out of the cookie jar, and I would say yes and no. And the reason I say that is that yes, Jeb Bush is getting a lot of New York money, which Chris Christie thought he would have a lock on in terms of all of that money. And I would say no in another reason. Is we know that when Mitt Romney started checking around to see if he could be in the 2016 race, he saw that some of his money was drying up and he needed a lot of money, like $1 billion or whatever, and so he dropped out. Obviously, he was not, Mitt probably was not as intent, probably really just making the go-rounds to see where he stood. But Christie has access to a lot of money in New York, and Jeb Bush does not have a lock on all of it. Christie has access to a lot of good money and a lot of big money. But the question is, can he deliver on it? And that's the real big question, not whether or not Jeb Bush has a lock on that money. So he really doesn't, Jeb does not have a lock on the money. The second thing that Rachel said as to why Chris Christie is toast is because of his little eeny-weeny gentleman Bill Mowers, who is running his campaign in New Hampshire, who before that was the executive director of the GOP Republicans in New Hampshire, who before that had something to do with Chris Christie in New Jersey, and had actually gone to see the mayor of Fort Lee to ask for his endorsement, and was subpoenaed and had to testify of all those things that he's going to do. If Chris Christie gets to the New Hampshire primary, which is a really, really big if he gets to the New Hampshire primary, the thing about his little eeny-weeny political operative who's running his campaign in New Hampshire, that's not an issue. It's not a big issue. Now, if Christie gets indicted, yeah, it wouldn't make any difference anyway, would it? And if he doesn't get indicted, it appears as if Bill Mowers, or whatever, was a marginal player in this thing. Obviously, Wyszynski, what was that lady's name? I can't think. And then Bill Baroni, Sampson, etc. What was her name? I can't remember it offhand. You know, those are the ones that are, and they were closer to Christie, and they haven't said anything, and they're probably singing all over the place right now. So that that doesn't bode well for Christie. But just this little guy, he doesn't mean nothing. Now, the third thing that she talked about was in terms of the settlement that the state of New Jersey did with Exxon, in terms of the thousands or millions of gallons of toxic chemicals that they had dumped on 1,500 acres of New Jersey wetlands over the course of a number of decades ago. That is a pretty big deal. But I'd like to take exception a little bit. I know I went over this whole thing. I don't remember all the details. I called it Essogate. I did that about a week or so ago. And the big thing is that Exxon is going to pay for all of the cleanup. I don't know how long the cleanup is going to take. I don't know what the parameters of the cleanup are, meaning how much, what microcosms, what percentage, what millionth of whatever is going to be allowed in the soil. I don't know any of that kind of stuff, but Exxon's going to pay for that, and it's basically something back to the citizens in New Jersey was $8.9 billion. Obviously, even 10% of that would be $800 million. They only settled for a third of that. Such a nominal amount. But Rachel brings up two things, and I want to disagree with one towards the end, is that it was $250 million, then it was really like $225 million, and then after all the attorney's fees, which I can see can actually get to be pretty big money, that would only be about $180 million. But I think the big thing about that, and I spoke about this on my Essogate rant, was that one of the things that Chris Christie, one of the reasons he wanted to settle, and he wanted to settle right away, is that he's got some budget problems coming up, and he wants to be run on the fact that he's had a balanced budget in New Jersey, and he had something very quietly written into the law last year that allows for the first $200 million of any type of environmental cleanup to go to the state coffers and not go to anything else. So he can use that first $200 million to basically balance the budget of the state, so that when he runs for election before he gets indicted, that he can say that he balance the budget of the state. And I think those are the real things. And I also want to bring in another thing. You showed a picture, Rachel showed a picture of him. I know he had lap band surgery. He still looks fat. He still looks arrogant. But the stuff about knowers, no one cares about. The stuff about Jeb Bush, no one cares about. This whole thing about Exxon, he might be able to explain it away. It might be a little bit of ongoing litigation. He could say it's just a minor thing. It's not a big thing if he gets on going. What the people of Iowa and New Hampshire seem to care about the most is the fact that he hugged that Obama guy. That seems to be the big problem. Well, we'll see how far that gets him.